Hey, what's going on, guys? This is going to be the nightly scan here. Big day tomorrow. I'll just preface it with that. We have a new speaker tomorrow, which is going to be Biden going over the Israel conflict. We should know we have Jeremy Powell tomorrow as well. That's always a market mover, if you will. So that's going to be pretty big. I'll go ahead and slide it on the screen here just for a second. You guys should be able to see. Where is it? Where is it? Thursday. Hal speaks. There we go. 12 o'clock. So right at noon. So 9 a.m. Usually the time when I sit out. I'll probably obviously watch, but I might sit this one out just to see what price ends up doing. But yeah, Powell speaks. We have all kinds of Fed speakers throughout the evening and the afternoon. As always, though, pre-market data. So we'll see how the market opens up. But not only that, we also have the back end of Tesla earnings and Netflix earnings. So I want to cover these very quickly. Should be about like a 15-minute video, nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and start with SPY. Focus list for me is SPY, NVIDIA, Tesla, and Netflix. I already posted it in the main chat. But you guys should know I'm also in the 425 for November 3rd. I have just runners on this one, so I think there's a more aggressive approach now, though, that we're in this little pocket right here. I've been talking about this zone right around here, right? Until we get down to this bullish fair value gap. I think this is a very, very shortable and an aggressive short area, right, where we can start to add shorter dated contracts if it gives us the opportunity. Right, we lost the levels that I wanted us to see lose, right? We never really closed above the gap, right, which was this spot here, which was where I would have flipped bullish more than likely. But as you know, there was a dark pull print, and just this is a good opportunity to unload shares, right, and just kind of sell with buyers willing to buy this. A lot of people thought this would break out. This was clear distribution. I said it for weeks, or not weeks, days. But yeah, it sold off here. I think we're in an active sequence breakdown, and we lost this August low pivot here, and we lost this August 2022 swing high on the weekly pivot there. That's what this green box is. So now we should all know that this ends up becoming a supply zone. So we're going to change this, right? This little spot here would obviously be red. So we're looking for this to be our short now. So that's going to be a focus if this ends up pushing back up for like a retest, right? So it comes here. We're looking for a rejection here for it to continue and make a new low on the daily. Or, right, what we can look for is a continuation under this low here. I think this is kind of the pivot on the daily chart. It's 429.88. We can honestly just round and just say like 430. But if we start to fade under this 430 level, aka 429.88, I think there is a break, retest, and then a straight flush down to 425.37, right? Remember a dark pull print down here as well. You guys might be able to see it. It's that little black line over here. It's 425.50. But technically the fair value gap fills at 425.37, and then this is where I'd be looking to go long. Doesn't mean I'm just going to buy calls down here, but I will be looking for an opportunity to go long. And you got to think about it this way too. This entire zone right here, right, is absorbed, right? It didn't break out necessarily, but a lot of these orders have been taken out from a sell side. So, if we end up getting down here, buyers kick in, I think this could really have a straight shot. Probably not straight, but I think it can, start to formulate higher lows, something like this. And I think it's going to melt through this spot pretty easy whenever that time does come. And then you guys should know, right, another dark pull print, 449.93. And this is why I'm going to be taking that 450 call for like December. I don't know. We'll see December, January. I'm going to go pretty heavy in that. I think that's going to be my heaviest size position in a long time. But yeah, that's going to be it for SPY. Really just watching how the reaction occurs at 429.88 tomorrow. If we do need a long on an indice, there's always the possibility that we could trade QQQ. QQQ looks a little bit different. I'll show you guys really quick. Right, QQQ kind of looks more like, it did lose this low here, which was important, but if it can get back above 360, 446, I think there's an opportunity for it to trade back up to, oh boy, I think it was like 370, or yeah, 368.48. Only reason I say that, and I'm not trying to just like trade solely off these, but there is a dark pull print here, right, on QQQ, back up to like 368.48. So I've been keeping my eye on this one. I figured I'd just share it with you guys, just because a lot of you guys don't see those things. But this one's a little bit crazier, right? Because it's the same concept as SPY, right? We still have a bullish for value gap here, but just a little bit less big of a zone. So just going to stick to my guns here. Looking for that SPY continuation to the sell side or the short side. So just going to be focusing on this here under 430. All right, guys, I'm going to try to do this again. I just had like a long-winded version of this, and I'll try to summarize it. So long story short, right, I like NVIDIA long. I know that this candle isn't necessarily what we want to see for a bullish trade, but hear me out. I think that this might be a trap underneath this low here from Tuesday. Very, very high volume bar, right, kind of finished almost like a doji. And really, I mean, this candle looks like it's good for continuation, but as we know, and we saw it with SPY, the market's been very trappy. If you go back to this day here, Tuesday, the 10th, right, this looked like an easy continuation for a short side trade after the gap trap. Look at the next day, right? It opened above the close with a hammer, and then now this hammer looks like it's good to continue to fill the gap. Next day it opens slightly above and traps all the the bulls, pulls down lower. It's just been really crazy, right? I feel like the market has just been seeking liquidity for people that are trying to, I guess, front run or honestly, yeah, just like try to go overnight swings. I feel like swings have been working a little bit better, but last week kind of proved that, hey, like this is very, very trappy. It's more so searching for liquidity than giving the intraday moves. So I think this is kind of the same thing, right? So what I'll be looking for tomorrow is some kind of either open right around the close here and get back above 424.80, or reopen above 424.80, right? And then start to trickle its way back up to 432.46, and then potentially 436.60. Couple things I want to show you guys as well. There's two things, right? So end of day, I'll talk about why I think this strike is significant. But end of day, last 6 minutes, right, we saw 435 calls kind of come in for 1.55, which isn't very expensive, 148,000 in premium, right? That got swept. We saw another 2 NVIDIA calls come in for pretty high size here, 100K, 92K. Same thing, right? 437.5, 437.5. And these are very short dated. These are both 1020s, and these aren't hedged, right? They're single leg, so they're betting on pretty much a single direction move in a very, very quick move to happen. 435 is no joke, right? We're at 420, 419 after hours, and they grab these in the last 30 minutes of the market. So that is one thing I wanted to point out. Second thing I want to point out really quickly, you guys hear me talk about this a lot, is NVIDIA and its dealer Greeks, right? This, whenever it's red, if you guys don't know, means that customer positioning is short, but dealer positioning is long, right? That's kind of how they hedge. But dealers are position bullish, right? So whenever there's a delta buyback or anything like that, or they need to basically hedge, they're going to be buying shares, okay? And look how stacked this is, guys. This thing is very, very stacked. I haven't seen one like this since Tesla back in I think it was the January rally. And green obviously here means negative, right? Gamma negative. So this is going to be whenever people are long, dealers are going to be short. But this is insane, right? And usually I like to back test this. So if every time it turns red, right, you bought calls or you bought shares, there's 155.9% annualized return. Only one that's better than that is Tesla, and Tesla I think is like 200%. So this thing, man, is only increasing as price kind of comes down. So I feel like it's an accumulation. Really too, like 11.17, 12.15 are the biggest strikes, biggest expirations with open interest from a dealer perspective. And dude, like, let's show you this real quick. So 430 is the biggest gamma pull by far, right? The market's pretty much anytime it gets too far from 430, it's going to pull back up to it. Anytime it gets too far above it, it's going to pull down to it. Until that changes, I think 430 is the pull. But if you guys remember, that strike is right around 430, 435. 435, 437 and a half. So they're overshooting it just a tad. But if we go to like some of these expirations, guys, like, I mean, there's some big levels here that are getting pulled to. This would obviously go to earnings, right? 11.17. So there's some pretty crazy things here. If we go back to, I think the other one was 12.15. 430 is a big pull. So I mean, 430 is definitely the kind of the gravitational level I feel like is going to be constantly pulled towards, whether it's too far above or too far below on NVIDIA. Dealers are extremely, extremely long on this. Now, I want to talk about why I like that as well, that particular strike. Go to the 1 minute really quickly. You guys know I talked about this morning on live. Dark pull print up to 436.60, right? Pretty obvious there. So, I mean, I think this can trade up to that. And there's another one, right, which I think is reserved for probably a little bit further dated, is up here, right? This is another dark pull print up at 460. So they are lining up asks to sell at the highs. And the further that this goes down and the more bullish dealers are, right, and the further away we get from 430, I feel like we're going to get some kind of spring action up to at least 430, maybe consolidate there and then trade back up to 460 with some time. Sorry, I'm losing my voice really quick, but yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking for, guys. This is one of my I guess one of my most bullish charts. I know it doesn't look like that on the daily with this current day, but you got to realize if this move fails, buyers can get back up. I think it's an easy move to 432, 430, right? Move back, maybe get to that dark pull print, or who knows, right? I think it could either trade to 430 or 432 first, and then the outlier would, of course, be to 436.60. I still like longer dated contracts. I think 1117, I think going out to like the 460s, 480s, maybe even 500s would be a good move. Something I'm going to be eyeing. But this is still, and I know it sounds crazy, but just kind of looking at the data set here, it's not so much about just the daily candle. The daily candle, if it can trap that low here, right, this little daily low here, I think this is one of my favorite long charts. But if this starts to fade down to here, right, I'll probably look at like swings on the name. But we'll see how it ends up going. But this is for sure something to keep on your radar. All right, Tesla is going to be the next one. Obviously, I'll show you guys each time frame, and I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. You guys will see, though, today's daily candle ended up breaking under this 247 spot. No retest really of this level. I think this level does need to get retested eventually, but it did obviously gap down, right? We're trading down near the swing low here at 234.58. I think this is the big level that I'm really watching tomorrow. If bulls can kind of hold or get back above or even open above this level and kind of pull down and hold this level, I think 234.58 really gives some good moves towards 240 flat, right? I think 240.11 is going to be a very, very big spot for bulls to try to get back over. I think it's going to be a big spot for bears to try to hold and try to push this back down. But nonetheless, that's a 6-point move after an IV crush. I think that's an excellent opportunity. It's going to be on a Thursday as well, so those contracts would move very nicely. And then, of course, if it can get through 240, I think it retests this daily level here at 247.06. So, I mean, that's really what I would like to get in terms of, some 0DTE exposure. I'm sorry, not 0DTE, but weekly exposure. I would also be comfortable adding some swings here if it can hold. I'm going to add into that same contract, right? I mean, I have 2 contracts left of the 1117s, so it'll be a very easy DCA or dollar cost average down. And, that should even out to pretty much, whatever the contracts are trading at now. Shouldn't be anything crazy. I do want to note, though, if we do slide under 234.58 and we come from underneath it, right? So, like, let's say we open down here, right, and we end up pushing up and rejecting that. I would just sit on my feet or sit on my hands until it comes down into the gap here, right? This is a very real possibility. I don't really want to short this. I don't know why. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity to short Tesla, but I just think that this chart, man, if we go back to the monthly, we're obviously halfway through the month. This isn't the most bullish print so far, but we are coming to the lower extremes of this flag, right? This is where I would get worried, right? You guys can even see it. 234, right in this level, like 234.58, whatever it is. This is where I start to get a little bit nervous as it will move back down to retest this fair value gap down here. At that point, I think this is shortable underneath. I just personally wouldn't do it. I would wait for 217.65. Right, we'll go back to the daily real quick. And I think that this is a good opportunity to get further dated contracts, right? So I'm talking like January, February, March, that far out, probably like 280s or so, maybe even 300s, where you can grab it once it fills this gap down here. But yeah, that's is pretty much all I'm looking at in terms of Tesla. We'll see how it ends up opening tomorrow in relation to this 234.58 level. And once again, if it does catch here, I'll probably add some swing, or I'll DCA into my 1117s and look to grab some Friday exposure for 240 calls, because I think this can push back up to 240, right? And then outlier move would be through 240 up to 247.06. Yeah, and if I even bring this up right here, you guys kind of know how this works now. I mean, this is the 240, 247 are now green, right? So this is going to be sort of a resistance where it's, it's going to be a positive gamma level. So they will look to unload or basically sell shares at this level. If it can get through that, I mean, it's an easy pull to 250. 250 is the biggest negative gamma level. So this is the biggest pull, right, where it's going to try to get pushed back up to this level. There are some downside ones that I'm not too concerned with, like 220, 215. If it happens, it happens. But I mean, I think this pushes back really up to 240. When it might reject there, 247 it might reject there. But 250 is definitely the biggest pull here. So we'll see how it ends up going at this 240 level. I mean, once again, if it, I just showed you guys that 220 level does make sense, right? I just posted it, or not posted it, but I showed you guys. Let's go ahead and just make this black really quick, and then we'll jump out of here. So the 220.58 to 217, right? That does line up. I know it's not the biggest pull, but I mean, if it gets down there, right, there is some attraction or some magnetization down to 220 to 215, or this could sell down. So that's why I wanted to give that potential outcome, right, of where it ends up kind of pulling down. Let's say it retests this level. It can definitely go down to 220. I'm not saying it won't. So, but this is still a long ad for me. But I want to show you guys too. I don't know if I mentioned it. The trend line here, right? We have from back in January, touched in April, right? It's kind of made its way not perfectly along this. I know this goes a little bit above it, but if we take a look on the 4-hour now, like this looks really good, right? This looks like it's actually bouncing off the trend line as we speak, so that's why this level is a really big point of emphasis at 234.58. So we'll see how it ends up opening tomorrow, but that is pretty much it for Tesla. All right, and then this one is going to be Netflix. Netflix, man, I wish I would have swung something. I know that was my plan when I was in California. Just contracts became so juiced. They were about 400 bucks even for 390s or 380s. And that's a lot to spend on a lotto. So I didn't think it was justifiable to be able to grab anything of size. I wasn't going to spend that much on a lotto, but yeah, you guys can see here post it's at like 390 after hours. So a fantastic move here. A couple levels that I'm going to be looking for. I don't really think that I would approach this in terms of like a swing, right? I think that's already out of the door. But I do think that this is going to be a day trader moving forward. I do think it trades back up into this fair value gap here on the hourly that was left behind a long time ago. I've been talking about this nonstop, but back up to 430. I think this is what it's going to ultimately trade back up to. But as of I guess tomorrow and the rest of the week, and just kind of moving forward, right? I mean, this was a huge level here that was the basis of this trying to hold. You guys can see the multiple rejections here from a daily perspective. These also ended up being weekly candles that rejected here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it sold down. This level is huge, right at 285.79. Now, some of my favorite trades are when it gaps above due to earnings, some kind of news, right? What would likely happen is those guys that have been short here would try to short it down, right, to get to that level, get out break even if they can, and then this thing will typically go. So I'm looking for some kind of pullback to 385.79, and then obviously trade to 398 and potentially 400, right? I mean, 400 is a pretty big psych level that I would be looking at. I definitely think this is achievable by the end of the week. Now, if we go to the 4-hour, right, I'll show you. Actually, let's go to the weekly really quickly so you guys can see, right? Weekly high or low here, weekly high. This one trapped on that candle, trapped on this candle. One second. Sorry, I had to sneeze, but a very, very key level there. So, I mean, really what we'd be looking for, let's go to a 15, is this just either hold above, right, and kind of do this. Well, I've talked about this multiple times, just kind of sell, hold, and then start to make its way back up. But really, we'd be looking just for 398, and I'll go ahead and add this now. We'll probably be looking for 400 flat, right around here, right? Something in this range for a target going into the end of the week. Really think this is a possibility. And once again, we're at Thursday, right? So going into Friday, right, a 10-point move on this name after IV Crush would be a fantastic trade. So this is my final chart that I'm going to be watching. And that's really it, right? I mean, I still have AMD that I'm looking at as well. I'll let you guys know if I end up swinging that. It just didn't give me what I wanted today in terms of an actionable long. It's still coming down to potentially test this, the top of this wedge trend line, which is literally perfect, right? This is a perfect trend line. So maybe if it comes down a little bit further, I think we can long somewhere like, maybe around like 99 to or 99.58 to 100. I think that 100 psych level is going to come into play one more time. But I am still looking to long this for 11/17 to December, 125 calls. I think this is a really good opportunity again. But I just want to focus on these four names going into tomorrow and the end of the week, and then Friday I'll make my I guess my calculated decision if I want to take AMD, what I want to do with Tesla, things like that. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be a very volatile day, very volatile end of week. But tomorrow specifically with the IV crushed on some of the bigger names, Tesla, Netflix, Powell, Biden, pre-market data, Fed speakers all throughout the day. So it's going to be pretty crazy. Always size down on these days. I typically don't advocate going super, super heavy, but it will be fun. Just got to trade safe and respect our rules. So that is it for the nightly scan. Hope you guys enjoyed.